This week on Africa Update, Nigeria, Ghana, Tunisia, others evacuate citizens trapped in Ukraine as conflict with Russia escalates. Africa splits over Russia-Ukraine conflict at UN General Assembly. West African leaders cancel Burkina Faso visit after military president's inauguration. Plus, United Nations Environmental Assembly marks 50th anniversary as Global Plastic Treaty holds in Kenya. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Africa Update. I am Ayuba Ile. Thank you for joining. Nigeria, Ghana, Tunisia, and some African countries are evacuating their citizens from neighboring countries to Ukraine as conflict with Russia escalates further. First batch of evacuees from Bucharest, Romania arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, on Friday morning in Nigeria. They are among over 5,000 students to be evacuated from neighboring Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, among others. Nigerian government had approved the sum of $8.5 million for the exercise. In a similar vein, 106 Tunisian students landed in their home country on Tuesday. Approximately 1,700 Tunisians live in Ukraine, amongst whom 80% are students. The Tunisian repatriation operation will proceed in the coming days, according to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. The first batch of Ghanaians also landed in their home country from Ukraine at the Kotoka International Airport in the capital, Accra. The 17th students arrived on Tuesday morning. Foreign Affairs Minister Shirley Ayoko had earlier announced that about 460 Ghanaian students have left Ukraine en route to Poland, Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic following the escalation of the crisis. More than 1,000 Ghanaian nationals are currently studying or working in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the African Union said it was disturbed by the reports that African citizens in Ukraine are being refused the right to cross borders to safety as they try to flee the conflict in Ukraine. Thousands of African and other foreign nationals, particularly students, have been scrambling to leave Ukraine following Russia's invasion. But as hundreds of thousands throng to Ukraine's borders, overwhelming authorities in neighboring countries, reports have emerged that Africans are being treated differently and sometimes prevented from leaving. Several have shared videos and testimonies on social media denouncing discrimination at train stations and border posts. The statement added that all people have the right to cross international borders during conflict and should enjoy the same right to cross this to safety from the conflict in Ukraine, notwithstanding their nationality or racial identity. In its response, the United Nations Refugee Agency has urged authorities in countries neighboring Ukraine to open their borders to African citizens fleeing the conflict there, amid reports that some were being denied access to safety. UNHCR said on Wednesday. Seteka, a South African-based UNHCR spokesperson, said the agency had not verified the report, but it is urging countries bordering Ukraine to ensure that asylum and protection are made available to all. Seteka said UNHCR was aware of reports that some African people in Ukraine are being denied access to board the trains that are taking people out to neighboring EU states, and others being denied access to cross the borders. Now, Africa was divided at Wednesday's UN General Assembly, which has adopted a resolution deploring Russia's invasion of Ukraine and calling for the immediate withdrawal of its forces. Eritrea was one of the only 5 countries in the world that voted against it in the rare emergency session following more than 2 days of debate. Its UN mission said it respects each country's territorial integrity and sovereignty, but wanted windows for diplomacy to remain open. The country opposed all forms of unilateral sanctions as illegal and counterproductive, as Eritrea had been subject to such sanctions by the West for 2 decades, and they only hurt innocent people and undermine the road to peace. The 54-member African bloc accounted for 17 of the 35 countries that abstained from voting on the General Assembly resolution calling on Russia to immediately, completely, and unconditionally withdraw all of its military forces from Ukrainian territory. These included the Central African Republic and Mali, where Russian mercenaries and troops are helping the government's fight insurgency. Uganda said it had abstained to uphold its neutrality as the incoming chair of the Non-Aligned Movement, a forum of 120 developing countries set up to stop their members from becoming pawns in Cold War power games. The EU ambassador to South Africa queried on Twitter why South Africa had abstained. Clayson Monyela, South Africa's head of public diplomacy, accused the bloc of having double standards, saying it should also condemn other aggressors in the Palestinian territories, Yemen, Syria, Libya, and Somalia. 8 countries, including 2 that have recently witnessed coups, Burkina Faso and Guinea, did not vote at all. Ethiopia, where a civil war has raged since November 2020 that has involved Eritrean soldiers fighting alongside Ethiopian troops, also did not vote. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed tweeted that his country was closely following events. Now, the Ukrainian Association in South Africa staged a peaceful protest outside the Department of International Relations in Pretoria, calling for South Africa government to condemn the invasion of Ukraine by Russian troops. This was the second protest by the organization, with the first taking place outside Russian embassy a few days earlier. Natalia Gordon, a Ukrainian resident living in South Africa, fought to hold back tears when she spoke about her family still in Kyiv. For several days, Russian missiles have been devastating Ukrainian cities, forcing many to flee their homes to neighboring country for safety. The protesters held up posters calling for the South Africa to take decisive action by imposing sanctions on Russia and providing support to Ukraine. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has called for mediation and engagement to end the war. Now, the National Emergency Management Agency has received another batch of Nigerian returnees from Libya. Mustafa Habib, the Director General, told local media on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022, that 128 persons returned via the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. He said they left Mitiga International Airport in Tripoli Tuesday night. The Director General advised the returnees and others to look beyond seeking a better livelihood outside Nigeria. He assured them that the federal government will provide an enabling environment where citizens will prosper. The Economic Community of West African States mission left Bamako after inconclusive talks with the military junta over restoring civilian rule. During the course of the mission, mediator Goodluck Jonathan was unable to reach an agreement with the ruling junta on the duration of the new transition. The visit came amid pressure on the ruling army, which seized power in 2020 to set a date for elections in Mali. Last month, ECOWAS imposed sanctions on the country, including a trade embargo over delayed elections. Mali's junta has so far resisted international pressure to swiftly restore civilian rule, backing away from an earlier commitment to hold a vote by the end of February 2022. The country's army-dominated legislature also approved a bill allowing the junta to rule for up to 5 years. Meanwhile, West African leaders have cancelled a planned trip to Burkina Faso to meet coup leader Paul-Henri Damiba, instead sending a team of ministers in the coming days, the region's main political bloc said in a statement on Thursday. Damiba, who was inaugurated on Wednesday as interim president for 3 years, led a group of officers to oust President Roch Kabore in January, saying they were motivated by frustration about mounting violence by terrorists. Damiba's government began to take shape on Thursday with the appointment of economist Albert Ouedraogo as the West African nation's transitional prime minister. The Economic Community of West African States said in a statement that the visit from regional leaders, including Ghana President Nana Akufo-Addo, was cancelled after Burkina Faso had gone ahead with adopting its transitional charter. ECOWAS did not directly comment on the long transition, which the junta argued was needed to stabilize the country. ECOWAS did not send a representative to Damiba's inauguration ceremony. In the meantime, a national conference in Burkina Faso has adopted a charter that will allow a junta that seized power in the West African state in January to lead a 3-year transition. The conference approved the charter, which was later signed by junta leader Lieutenant Colonel Henry Paul Damiba after a day-long debate in the capital, Ouagadougou. Damiba, who did not speak during the signing, led the January 24th coup that ousted President Roch Marc Kabore. The coup, the fourth in the West African region in 18 months, including 2 in Mali and an attempted coup in Guinea-Bissau in early February, have raised concerns of a backslide, in democracy in a region that was shedding its coup belt moniker. Libyan lawmakers have confirmed a new transitional government. The cabinet was submitted by Prime Minister Fathi Bashagha to the East-based House of Representatives. Prime Minister-designate Fathi Bashagha submitted his cabinet to the Eastern-based House of Representatives, where 92 of 101 lawmakers in attendance confirmed it in a vote broadcast live from the city of Tobruk. The move fills division in a country where 2 prime ministers claim legitimacy. The Prime Minister-designate Bashagha faces embattled Prime Minister Abdulhamid Beba, who has repeatedly refused to cede power before the organization of presidential and parliamentary elections in June. Earlier this month, Beba proposed a 4-point plan to hold a simultaneous parliamentary vote and referendum on constitutional amendments late in June. Now, after the vote, Abdulhamid Beba said he wanted to build a unified Libya. Following Bashagha's appointment, Libyans protested in various cities. His nomination raised fears it will smash to pieces the 2015 UN deal to form a unity government that Libyan rival factions had signed. The new government includes 29 ministers and 6 ministers of state. You're watching Africa Update, coming up shortly. United Nations Environmental Assembly marks 50th anniversary as Global Plastic Treaty holds in Kenya. Details after the break. Thanks for staying. This is Africa Update, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Here's another look at the major stories again. Nigeria, Ghana, Tunisia, others evacuate citizens trapped in Ukraine as conflict with Russia escalates. Africa splits over Russia-Ukraine conflict at UN General Assembly. Now, moving on, the Sankara trial has been suspended yet again. Some of the defendants' lawyers ask for charges of crime against national security be dropped, citing the Constitutional Council's approval of Lieutenant Colonel Damiba as president after he led a coup. Citing the Constitutional Council's approval of the military takeover by Colonel Damiba, the lawyers asked for the crime against national security charges to be dropped on the basis of an exception of unconstitutionality. The defense argued clients could not be accused of organizing a coup and therefore could not be prosecuted for attacking national security, since the Constitutional Council formally determined that Damiba was president, head of state and supreme commander of the armed forces after his military takeover. United Nations negotiators have agreed a roadmap for a global plastic treaty that will address plastic production and design according to a draft resolution, Reuters reports. UN member states this week converged in Nairobi to agree on plans for the first global agreement to tackle plastic pollution. They hope to agree a full treaty within the next 2 years. The main sticking points were whether any agreement will be legally binding or voluntary, and if it will address plastic production and single-use packaging design or be confined to improving waste management and recycling. A draft resolution entitled End Plastic Pollution towards an internationally legally binding instrument, said that the treaty should address the full life cycle of plastic, meaning production and design, as well as waste. In the same vein, the United Nations Environment Programme celebrated its 50th birthday at a special session in Kenya's capital, calling for more action worldwide to overcome climate change, biodiversity loss, and rising levels of pollution and waste. On Wednesday, the agency passed a key resolution to start negotiating an international treaty to ban plastic pollution. Speaking at the ceremony, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta said his country will rally behind UNEP to promote conservation and sustainable development. Also in attendance were Botswanan President Mogwetsi Masisi and his Nigerian counterpart Muhammadu Buhari. The historic resolution to end plastic pollution was endorsed by 175 countries. It creates an intergovernmental committee to negotiate and finalize a legally binding agreement by 2024. Now, rescuers in the Comoros scrambled to find any survivors after a plane carrying 14 people crashed in the Indian Ocean of Archipelago on Saturday. Airline AB Aviation said its small Cessna plane disappeared from the radar about 2.5 kilometers from its destination during its flight between the capital, Moroni, and the city of Fomboni on the island of Moheli. Search operations have begun to find the aircraft's debris in the coastal area of Joezi, confirming the crash, the Comorian Transport Ministry said in a statement. The Comorian government said the 12 passengers were Comorian and that the 2 pilots were Tanzanians. In another tragic loss, at least 18 people were killed when an informal gold mine collapsed this week in Western Guinea, the government spokesman said. This follows a similar incident in Burkina Faso about 2 weeks ago, where more than 60 people were killed and dozens more wounded in an explosion at an informal gold mine site. The accident took place Monday in Gaoul, about 386 kilometers from the capital, Conakry, where miners have flocked in recent months to pan for gold. Now, Tunisia has raised fuel prices by about 3% for the second time in a month due to a sharp rise in oil prices in an effort to rein in its budget deficit, the Energy Ministry said on Monday. The North Africa country, suffering from its worst financial crisis, is trying to agree on a new financing program with the International Monetary Fund. Tunisia, which subsidizes domestic fuel prices, said it will launch a package of economic reforms aimed at reducing spendings as it seeks foreign rescue package to help it avert a looming crisis in its public finances. The Energy Ministry said each increase of $1 in the price Tunisia had to pay for the hydrocarbons will cost the state 140 million dinars. The 2022 budget is based on an average oil price of $75 a barrel, so higher purchasing costs could widen the forecast fiscal deficit, already equivalent to 6.7% of the economy. Now, to many visitors, Mbare, which is one of Harare's low-income settlements, seems to be a chaotic and filthy township. The area's dusty streets and dilapidated apartment buildings and its crowded roadside markets do not do the settlement any favor. Despite all the chaos that characterizes Mbare, a closer look reveals that amid all that chaos are industrious citizens trying all their best to eke out a living in a tough economic environment. Take a look.
To many visitors, Mbare, which is one of Harare's low-income settlements, seems to be a chaotic and filthy township. The area's dusty streets, the dilapidated apartment buildings and its crowded roadside markets do not do the settlement any favor. Despite all the chaos that characterizes the place, a closer look reveals that amid all that chaos are industrious citizens trying all their best to eke out a living in a tough economic environment. As the first settlement built for black migrant workers during the colonial era, Mbare is not only known for its vibrant formal and roadside markets, the place is also rich with historical and cultural significance. After working at an engineering company for more than a decade, Ravai Faramenga decided to start his own company that makes grinding machines in the Magaba area of Mbare.
ora chikonzero chakakonzera kuti tiuye kuno Magaba takaona kuti muno muri chipa pakubhadhara rent ndo number 1. Number 2 ndoona kunge munouya makatsi makati wandei munouya vanhu ndo munosvikira vanhu vazhinji kuno Magaba muno ndo zvakakonzera kuti tibve kubasa kwatani tichitouya kusenzera muno.
Formerly known as Harare, meaning he never sleeps in the local Shona language, Mbrae started to expand around 1907 when British colonial settlers built a town called Salisbury, now Zimbabwe's capital Harare. This created an influx of immigrants coming from Mozambique, Malawi and Zambia looking for employment. Today, Mbrae is a melting pot for different cultures. Through the central bus station, Mbrae Musica bus terminus, the suburb is directly linked to all major routes and is the transport hub linking Harare to all destinations in Zimbabwe and neighboring countries. Given the place's chaotic nature, what many people fail to realize is that the place houses some of Zimbabwe's most talented craftsmen and women. Siyaso, or Magaba, is the industrial hub of Mbrae, and is home to thousands of small and medium enterprises. The area is made up of many traders and manufacturers of various products, from building materials, farming equipment, machinery and household goods.
Magaba hakuna anorara nenzara. Anoshanda kumagaba hakuna anorara nenzara nekuti mari inowanikwa Magaba ende inotenderera every day.
Chakaita kuti tikwanise tide kuvhura kuno kuMbare takaona kuti masuppliers ndoko anonyanya kuwandira kuno uye munowana zvinhu zvakachipa uye kunouya vanhu vakasiyana siyana vanobva kunzvimbo dzakasiyana siyana saka basa redu rinotifambei kana zvinhu zvakadaro.
It is believed that every year, millions of dollars exchange hands in the various markets dotted across the area. Faramenga said despite all the chaos, Mbrae is where raw talent is concentrated. As Zimbabwe's once thriving manufacturing industry collapsed due to economic decay 2 decades ago, Mbrae welcomed many craftsmen who could not be absorbed by the crumbling industry. What makes Mbrae unique is that it presents opportunities to all people, regardless of their background, gender, age or social status. Despite being dominated by men, female business owners are thriving in Mbrae.
Ndoona senzvimbo ine kuti tiri kusimudzira vanhukadzi zvakanyanya nekuti pane mamwe mabasa tainzi vakadzi hatifanirwa kuita asi ndizvo vakadzi taakuita mabasa iwaya sesimba aya tanga tisingatomboziva kuti vanhukadzi vanofanira kuziva simbi asi inoita kutoziva simbi kupfuura vanhurume.
Enoch Muchafuruka, who has been in the carpentry business for 2 decades with his brothers, said he picked the skill from his father who also worked at the same place. He said many people prefer to buy property in Mbrae because of the quality.
Isusu furniture tinogadzira muno furniture yakasimba inorasa kwenguva yakareba nekuti isusu tinoshandisa mabhodzi akati simbei ende futi furniture edu yese tinogadzira tinotanga tatoisa frame then tozesa mabhodzi manje kune mamwe macompanies vanokwanisa kungoisa mabhodzi aya zvokuti mushure menguva pfupi chinhu chiya chakutosheka.
To capitalize on the traffic, many small businesses have set up shop on roadsides in Mbrae.
Chinoitika manje kurodhi kunokuka zvakunoita mundara kuno kutori kuhasha vanhu vazhinji chaivo mukati katuma hawatombopinde vanenge vachida zvinhu zvokuti vanenge vachitoendawo kwavanoenda saka vanenge vachida murodhi.
While Mbrae is arguably a hub of enterprising business owners, manufacturers and traders, the area is also marred with controversy. Being the hub of informal traders makes the area a target for law enforcement agents who often conduct raids seeking to bring sanity to the area. The government is also pursuing an Mbrae urban renewal project that seeks to rehabilitate and modernize the suburb's dilapidated infrastructure.
Now, finally, the Akagera National Park, located in Rwanda's eastern province, has embarked on improving conservation efforts to protect wildlife, natural habitat, and increase tourism revenues. The park, which is Rwanda's only protected savanna region with a wide range of animals, has intensified efforts to ensure that it is run for the public benefit. Take a look.
African Parks and the government of Rwanda entered in a partnership to manage this park in 2010, and we have seen really good efforts. We have seen the community surrounding the park have now liked the park. They are working with the park to help the park. We have seen like lions and black and white rhinos introduced to Akagera National Park after many years of absence. Lions have been introduced here in 2015, and black rhinos were introduced here in 2017 and 2019. White rhinos were introduced in Akagera National Park in 2021. So Akagera now is a big five, and now the process is to make sure that they thrive in the park. The lions were introduced here were 7, and now we are counting around 40 lions in the park. We introduced 18 black rhinos from South Africa. They're doing well. We have had calves that were born here. Last year we received white rhinos, and they are well. They have adapted to the park.
Wow.
We work with dogs for patrol and training too. Every day we train dogs obstacle crossing, obedience exercise, and human scent tracking too. Even detection. Call them.
Well, with that, we've come to the end of Africa Update for this week. Connect with us next week for another time on the program. You can also watch us live on YouTube and also connect with us via our social media platforms. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for watching.